Alright, this video is going to go over the inbound NAT part of this lab. So for that outbound NAT config we basically set it up so that traffic going from the inside to the outside will get the router IP address. Now we want to set it up so the traffic coming from the outside to the inside can get to our server. In class, we're going to use our Linux server for that. In Packet Tracer, if you want to test this, which is not required, you can use one of these servers. In the lab, we want our server to have the IP address 10.1.1.130, which is a VLAN 3 IP address. If you configured your host PC with 10.1.1.30, you need to change that to something else. And for DNS, we can use the RichNet DNS server at this point. So now, theoretically, I put it in a VLAN 3 port. I'm going to ping 100.100.100.100.102 to make sure that works. We're going to sit here and wait for it because I like to sit here and wait for it because that's fun. And there we go. So that works. So now our server is on the network. And if we look at the services our server is providing, here are the different things we can set up. It is on for HTTP and HTTPS, which we'll be testing. And if you wanted to edit your file that shows up, you could change the text that shows up. I'm going to change mine. Rich's web server. So now when we connect to that, we'll see it say Rich's web server. So if you want to test to make sure your web server is working, you can do that locally to start with. So I'm going to open the browser on my one of my PCs, and I'm going to put the IP address, the internal IP address of my web server. And that's not the right IP address. So there we go. We got to Rich's web server. So now we want to make it so that we can access it from the outside. And if we already have all the other NAT configs in place, it's pretty simple. One command to add that NAT for the inbound traffic, IP NAT, inside, source, static, and then we put the private IP address of the server, and then we put the public NAT IP. And you're saying, hey, Rich, what do I use for the public NAT IP? Well, that's a great question. You go check the thing that tells you what to use for the public NAT IP, and you'll have a column here that says, here's what you should use for the NAT IP for your external server. So that's what we're going to use for this first one. I don't have a column on the table right now, so I'm just going to pick one for my network. I'm going to use 99, 99, 99, 10. So that is it for adding the static NAT, as long as you have the other IP NAT inside, IP NAT outside commands on the interfaces. So in the lab and in the packet tracer, there is a RichNet test PC. So you should now be able to go to the RichNet test PC, and you should be able to connect to that NAT IP. So theoretically, if all is well, when this browser opens up, I can type 99, 99, 99, 10 to get to my web server. So there's my web server. On the lab sheet, I probably should have looked at the lab sheet to make sure I'm not telling you stuff that I didn't say to do. On the lab sheet, we're going to do that for the one server, and then for fun, we're also going to set up the Linux on the VLAN 2 PC and create NAT stuff for that server as well. So we're just doing that today to get some extra practice. So you will need to, I'm not going to do it in this video because it's basically the same steps we just did. You need to connect the VLAN 2. Well, yours is already connected in the lab because it's on the same PC, but you need to give the VLAN 2 Linux an IP in VLAN 2. You need to modify the router config to create a NAT for that VLAN 2 Linux. And you also need to make sure that the web server is started on the VLAN 2 Linux. And that's pretty much it for the inbound NAT part of this lab.